Phil Lesh, a founding member of the legendary Bay Area rock band The Grateful Dead, has died at 84. The surviving members of The Grateful Dead, as well as other musicians and fans, are paying tribute to Phil Lesh, one of the founding members of the band, who died Friday at the age of 84. An innovative bass player whose jazz background strengthened his improvisational skills, Lesh helped found the Grateful Dead by befriending banjo player and guitarist Jerry Garcia and convincing him to do a recording for a folk music radio show he engineered. As the musicians who would form the Grateful Dead coalesced in the Bay Area, the focus changed from jug band music to rock music. It was at Lesh's home they decided to change the name of the band from the Warlocks to the Grateful Dead. Lesh survived multiple medical scares. In 1998, he received a liver transplant to treat a chronic hepatitis C infection, then became an advocate for organ donation. In 2006, he underwent surgery for prostate cancer. In 2015, he had another surgery, this time for bladder cancer. He continued performing up until this year, including shows celebrating his 83rd and 84th birthdays at the Capitol Theater in Port Chester, New York. It's hard to find a photo of the man where he's not smiling. Lesh was born in Berkeley in 1940 and played violin and trumpet growing up. In high school, he developed an interest in avant-garde composition and free jazz, which led to him studying under the experimental composer Luciano Berio at Mills College alongside classmate Steve Reich, among other university stints. While volunteering at Berkeley radio station KPFA, he met Jerry Garcia, a bluegrass banjo player at the time. And in 1964 he became the bassist for Garcia's new band The Warlocks alongside guitarist Bob Weir, keyboardist Ron, Pigpen, McKernan, and drummer Bill Kreutzman. Lesh had never played bass before, so he learned on the fly. Just before the end of 1965, the Warlocks renamed themselves The Grateful Dead, playing their first show under the name at one of Ken Kesey's acid tests. The Dead became key players in San Francisco's massively influential psychedelic rock scene, using drugs to fuel extended improvisational performances, expanding their musical vocabulary to include elements of jazz, country, and classical, and attracting throngs of fans who followed them around on tour. They developed the template for the modern jam band in real time. Lesh contributed highly melodic bass parts to the Grateful Dead's music and wrote some of the band's most enduring songs, including Box of Rain, Truckin', and Unbroken Chain. His interest in the avant-garde was a crucial influence on the Dead throughout their run. He also contributed high harmonies until the mid-1970s, when his vocal cords were damaged due to improper singing technique, but began singing lead vocals as a baritone a decade later. He continued with the band through various lineup changes, all the way through their breakup in 1995 following Garcia's death. After the Dead, Lesh led his own band, Phil Lesh and Friends, and participated in Grateful Dead offshoots such as The Other Ones and The Dead. In 2009, he and Weir formed the band further. In 2012, he opened a music venue called Terrapin Crossroads in San Rafael, California. His sons Graham and Brian led the house band there until the venue's closure in 2021. After Further's breakup in 2014, Lesh retired from full-time touring. He took part in the Dead's Fare Thee Well concerts in 2015, but was not a member of Dead & Company, the offshoot band started by Weir, Kreutzman, and Mickey Hart. Lesh was the oldest and one of the longest surviving members of the band that came to define the acid rock sound emanating from San Francisco in the 1960s. "I cried immediately 'cause it feels like my dad died," said Todd Balser, a Deadhead, as the fans are known. "The world is now missing a connector, a maven, a musical giant." Phil Lesh, bassist and founding member of the Grateful Dead, passed peacefully this morning. He was surrounded by his family and full of love. Phil brought immense joy to everyone around him and leaves behind a legacy of music and love, the Post read. Lesh had previously survived bouts of prostate cancer, bladder cancer, and a 1998 liver transplant necessitated by the debilitating effects of a hepatitis C infection and years of heavy drinking. A couple years ago, I was able to DJ and open for him at Stern Grove Festival, which is one of the biggest honors ever to be able to be close to one of my heroes, said musician Gregorio Figueroa, one of several fans who showed up to the Grateful Dead house in San Francisco's Haight-Ashbury neighborhood. a Victorian home where the band lived together in the late 1960s to deliver flowers in memory of Lesh. Dennis McNally is the historian for and a former promoter of the Grateful Dead for 20 years. They injected a level of creativity and experimentation that I don't think any other band ever had. McNally told KTVU. He remembers Lesh's intelligence, which would help shape the band's focus on live performance over record sales, blending multiple genres of music. Lesh's death comes 2 days after MusiCares named the Grateful Dead its Persons of the Year. MusiCares, which helps music professionals needing financial or other kinds of assistance, cited Lesh's Unbroken Chain Foundation among other philanthropic initiatives. The Dead will be honored in January at a benefit gala ahead of the Grammy Awards in Los Angeles. The Grateful Dead formed in Palo Alto in 1965, evolving to perfect a kind of hybrid approach to their improvisational, jam band style, a sound that spans acid rock, psychedelia, folk, jazz, Americana, Bakersfield country, and beyond. They created their own counterculture centered around their touring, a community known as Deadheads, and have become one of the most in-demand live acts. In 2007, the Grateful Dead received the Lifetime Achievement Award from the Recording Academy. In February of this year, the Grateful Dead broke the record for the most top 40 albums to chart on the Billboard 200, then pulling out ahead of Elvis Presley and Frank Sinatra with 59. 41 of the band's 59 entries in the top 40 have happened since 2012, thanks to the popularity of the series of archival albums compiled by David Lemieux. Lesh most recently lived in Ross, in Marin County. He leaves behind a wife and 2 sons, along with countless adoring fans all over the world. Long live the Grateful Dead. God bless Phil Lesh, said Balser. Safe on your journey, my friend. Thanks for being part of my life.